Mardi Gras today. I didn't even realize.
Yes, it is.
Did you know it was Mardi
last
Gras?
year we had, remember last year we were at the studio. We had like the little Mardi Gras cakes.
Yes, yeah. There's no Mardi Gras celebration. They're not even doing they're not doing any celebration down in New Orleans this year. But it does take place on the day before Ash Wednesday, the first day of Lent, which is the 40-day period that precedes Easter. In Europe, Lent meant the start of 40 days of fasting and abstinence before Easter. It was therefore practical to use up any perishable food items before the Lent started. That's where the big party came from. In medieval Europe, these feasts became the pre-Lent carnivals of Europe, such as Venice and Nice. Lent often began as the worst of winter had passed, so it became a tradition to hold the festival to celebrate the end of the cold weather also. The word Lent comes from the German word lengthen, meaning lengthening, referring to the long periods of daylight as winter finally gives way to spring. Mardi Gras is French for Fat Tuesday, which is a fitting name for the day to try and cram as much excess alcohol and food in your body as you can. And today, obviously, it's associated with New Orleans, though the first recorded Mardi Gras did not take place there until 1836. And for everybody out there, happy Mardi Gras. Why not, right?
Happy Mardi Gras.
Yes.
Happy
I
Mardi
try to
Gras.
wear like the colors, the Mardi Gras colors. It's like purple and gold and.
I've never been to. That's one of the things that I actually never did that I always wanted to do was go to Mardi Gras. I think I'm too old now to go to Mardi Gras. When I was younger, it was one thing that I am sorry I missed.
I don't think you're too old.
I think I'm too old.
I don't think.
I'm a distinguished attorney now. Okay, I cannot be walking around. I cannot be walking around the streets of social media. I cannot be walking around the streets of New Orleans, drug throwing beads at people. I think I'm beyond that at this point in my life. What do you think, Vanessa?
Respectfully.
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 Yes, exactly.
You
right.
could do it. Brad.
Yo-Yo's like, yeah, come on, man. You can booze up and start throwing beads at people.
Do you see these like public figures that look super, super young? They're like in their 50s, and so you would never even know they're in their 50s. They are on the boats. They're at Mardi Gras. They're out there getting drunk. It doesn't matter. Age ain't nothing but a number. Just keep it off of social media.
All right, Yo-Yo, me and you next year when Bradshaw Live is off on Mardi Gras next year, you're gonna know Yo-Yo and Brad's at Mardi Gras, right?
You already know. Yeah. And I already know people out there, Brad. I got you.
Bradford.
Meanwhile, let's get into some immigration news, which is really important stuff. The Biden administration, they are going to be unveiling its immigration reform legislation in Congress sometime this week. We are finally going to get to see what it is. It is called the United States Citizenship Act of 2021. It is going to be introduced publicly in the House or in the Senate before the end of the week, most likely on Thursday, but it could be pushed back to Friday. The effort to push the legislation through both houses of Congress is being led by Senator Bob Menendez and Representative Linda Sánchez. There's two huge bills that Biden wants to pass in the first 100 days, and that is COVID relief, and that is immigration relief. Now, the legislation is going to mirror some of the executive actions that Biden signed in his first weeks in office. The executive orders are legally binding. They are published in the Federal Register. Executive actions, however, are more symbolic efforts to enact change in immigration law. Now, Biden signed a record number during both the time period from the time he has been elected, some of which include edicts on immigration. One of his actions called on Congress, an edict is just, I want this to happen. One of his actions called on Congress to grant permanent status to Dreamers as part of the Obama-era Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival programs, which Donald Trump challenged in court. Now, according to published reports, we are going to know exactly what the DREAM Act is going to be part of in this U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. As the reports are coming out of Washington right now, what they are saying is that if you are a child and you entered the United States under the age of 17, all you have to do is prove you were physically here before the age of 17 and before January 1st, 2017, or 4 years from the date of enactment, whichever is going to be later. So it's going to actually be some date beyond January 1st, 2017. It's going to be a date in 2017 that you had to be physically here, and it's going to be you had to be here under the age of 17. If you qualify, meaning that you graduate high school or are on your way to graduate high school and do 2 years in the military, 2 years in college, you are going to be eligible to adjust your status to get a green card. If you're not at the age yet to do the 2 years of military or college, or you have to re-enroll to do your college or your GED, you would get a conditional green card until you satisfy all of those requirements. All of the bills that I believe could possibly pass, I believe the DREAM Act will definitely pass. Why? Because I would find it really hard to believe that the Democrats will not let it pass. They have majorities in both the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, with Kamala Harris being the tiebreaker. It has bipartisan support. Lindsey Graham, who is a staunch supporter of Donald Trump, has co-sponsored the DREAM Act for 2021. So we know there will be Republican support for it as well. What I believe will happen is that there will be pieces of this bill broken off, voted on separately as separate legislations. Some of the legislation will pass bipartisan, such as the DREAM Act. Other parts may require what's called reconciliation, which is where you only need 51 people, 51 senators to pass the bill. It's all going to be on the Senate side, not the House side. The House, the Democrats have the numbers. So we'll see what happens with the rest. For example, there's going to be in the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021 a proposal that will include an earned pathway to citizenship for over 10, 11 million people. And I don't even believe it's 10, 11 million people. I think it's probably 40, 50 million people who were physically here on January 1st, 2021. Now that date, that's the date that is being published. We'll see what the date is. There's going to be a cutoff date. That is the date that's being published in the news. Again, when they unveil the actual legislation, we'll see what that date is on Thursday or Friday. If they keep that January 1st, 2021 date, or they move it to a different date. And just because, as I've said before, they say it's going to be January 1st, 2021, meaning anyone out of status here on January 1st, 2021 would be able to ultimately get some sort of conditional status and an amnesty, and then 5 years later apply for adjustment of status to a green card holder. We'll see what the date actually ends up being. As part of the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021, I was just speaking to one of my clients who filed for their married children. She's a U.S. citizen, filed for her married children, wants to know why it's so long. Well, they only give 20,000 green cards out a year, whatever it may be, something around there, that number, to married children of U.S. citizens. And there's obviously hundreds and hundreds of thousands of married children of U.S. citizens waiting for a green card. As part of the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021, they're going to speed up those cases, because right now it's a 15-year wait. How fast will they speed it up? We don't know. What will they have to give back to anti-immigration forces to speed up those cases? Maybe it'll be the end of that category for those who haven't filed. So I think that people, especially in family-based cases where it's married children of U.S. citizens and perhaps brothers and sisters, if you ever wanted to file for your family member who is married or a brother or sister, do it now, because you'll probably be included in the new laws, especially brothers and sisters abroad, married children abroad. You may not be able to do it after the laws pass. We'll see what the laws are. They say there's 11 million undocumented aliens, Yo-Yo and Vanessa, in the United States. And I have to say something to you. Since the year 2000, I've heard the same freaking number, 11 million. It's been 11 million since 2000, really? 2001, 2002, there was 11 million, 2005, there was 11 million, 2010, there was 11 million, 2015, the number was 11 million undocumented aliens, and now in 2021, it's still 11 million undocumented aliens, which leads one to say, we find it very difficult to believe that nobody came or left in the last 21 years. All right, it's been the same 11 million people. Very bizarre. And I'll be frank with you also. My office, since 2020, has seen over 100,000 clients. Most of them undocumented, but not all, but most undocumented. I find it hard to believe that I saw 1% of the undocumented population in the entire United States. So it would lead me to believe that number is severely undercounted. And they're probably undercounting it because if they told the American public we're going to give amnesty to 50, 60 million people, which is possible, there would be an uproar. I would say the number's closer to 50. No one knows what the number is. I believe, and I have no idea, just it's my own Uncle Brad sense. I think the number's closer to 30, 40, 50 million than it is 11 million people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I don't know. But we're going to know a lot more on Thursday or Friday, so please keep listening. Maybe even tomorrow they will present to the public what the legislation is before they present it to Congress. We don't know. But in the next 24, 48, 72 hours, we're going to know finally exactly what is in the Biden amnesty for 2021. So stay tuned. Now, according to BuzzFeed News, this is also news reports. We haven't seen anything official yet. But according to BuzzFeed News, the Department of Homeland Security, they are planning to scrap the harder citizenship tests that Trump came out with to try to stymie people from becoming citizens. So they made the citizenship test much more difficult. So who is that going to harm? It's going to harm people who don't have university education. So Biden is rolling back the harder citizenship test, at least according to BuzzFeed News. I haven't seen anything official yet, but BuzzFeed News is saying Biden's rolling it back. They're going to go to the old citizenship tests. Now, these plans come 2 months after the Trump administration issued a new version of the civics tests. All immigrants, they always have 2 chances to pass. But if it's a difficult test, the test was pre-Trump. If you're able to pass a 6th grade history test, you would pass your citizenship test. And Trump made it like advanced placement high school tests now. So now it's being rolled back. Now, advocates such as the Catholic Legal Immigration Network also said that the wording of some of the correct answers was changed due to political influence. For example, the answers of who does the United States Senator represent was altered from all the people to just citizens of that state. But a U.S. Senator represents the people of that state, not just the citizens of that state. Can you imagine? Oh. And you would get denied if you said they represent the people of the state instead of the citizens of the state. Those things are being rolled back as well.
Trump reminds me of, if y'all ever watch Matilda, Trump reminds me of the Trunchbull. He's like the Trunchbull of the United States. Just an evil person who just doesn't care about people. It's wild.
Now, I don't know what Matilda is. I don't know if I've ever watched Matilda, but it sounds pretty bad. But it sounds pretty bad.
He's right, though.
I'm going to send you a picture of the Trunchbull. It literally looks like him with a bun on top of it.
News reports are also reporting that immigrants who were forced by Trump to wait in dangerous conditions in Mexico while they tried to gain asylum are going to start to be allowed into the United States. This unprecedented effort, which is expected to be rolled out within the next 2 weeks, is the beginning of Biden's promise to end the Trump administration's Remain in Mexico policy, formerly known as the Migration Protection Protocols. What Trump was doing was saying we're going to limit the number of people who can get an interview any particular day. You got to wait on the Mexican side to get an interview. The number of people who will have an interview are very small. People were waiting 6, 9, 12 months for an interview just to see if they had a credible fear of returning to their home country before they would even accept an asylum application. Now Biden is changing that. This policy, the Trump policy, led to tens of thousands of asylum seekers on the border, and we've shown those pictures time and time again. Now, often left with nowhere to go but squalid camps in Mexican border towns, the human rights advocates reported cases of the immigrants being kidnapped, raped, tortured. The Biden administration's plan, which is going to start slowly at 3 ports of entry, targets those who are pushed into the Remain in Mexico program and still have active cases. Those who qualify after registering online should not come to the border, but instead wait for instructions to start the entry process. As they prepare to enter the United States of America, the immigrants will be kept in staging areas in Mexico where they will receive medical screening and a COVID test. Those who test positive for the disease will be forced to continue waiting in Mexico. U.S. Customs and Border Patrol also assess the capacity to intake those allowed into the United States on a daily basis. Officials believe they can process up to 300 people per day. The government estimates there's about 25,000 people still on the border living in tents waiting to apply for asylum. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is now going to be facing a 9/11 style commission. You know, the impeachment's not over yet. It's just kind of started in a way. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said Monday that Congress is going to establish an independent September 11th type commission to look into the deadly insurrection that took place at the United States Capitol. Pelosi said the commission will investigate and report on the facts and causes relating to the January 6, 2021 domestic terrorist attack. In a letter to Democratic colleagues, Pelosi said the House will put forth supplemental spending to boost security at the Congress. Now, the Senate acquitted Trump, voting 57 to 43 to convict him, falling short of the two-thirds majority. But the Republican Party is now in crisis. There are two groups of people. There are people who are pro-Trump, and there are people who just want Trump out. Now, 7 Republicans voted to convict Trump. Those senators would be anti-Trumpers. They want Trump out of the Republican Party. They include Richard Burr of North Carolina, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Mitt Romney of Utah, Ben Sasse of Nebraska, Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania. I suspect that there's more senators who want him out, but are scared to say anything because they like their political career over doing what is right. Now, Trump has already attacked Mitch McConnell. Did you see Mitch McConnell's speech over the weekend?
Oh, no.
During the impeachment. Okay. So Mitch McConnell, over the weekend, he voted in favor of Trump and not to convict him. He is the Senate minority leader. He used to be the Senate majority leader of the Republican Party. He is what is considered at this point the most powerful elected Republican figure in the United States since Donald Trump is no longer president. While Donald Trump was president, he was considered the second or perhaps third most powerful Republican figure behind Trump and perhaps behind Pence. And then there was Mitch McConnell. He came out and voted. He kind of wanted to split the baby. He tried to wiggle his way out of voting his conscience. His conscience said Donald Trump caused this riot. And he voted and said, well, it's unconstitutional to try to impeach somebody who's already not in office anymore. And that would lead to some absurd results that we can start going to impeach any private citizen that we would want. And that's not necessarily the case because Congress started the impeachment while Donald Trump was president. They weren't trying to impeach a private person. They were trying to impeach him while he was president, and Mitch McConnell refused to have the hearing before the Senate. So it was really not a very fair argument by Mitch McConnell. Nevertheless, he was trying to soothe both sides of the problems that the Republicans are having. He was trying to vote in favor of Donald Trump, but then afterwards came out and blasted him on the Senate floor and said that he was the cause of this riot. He was the one who made all these fake accusations of election fraud. He is the one who caused the rioters to come to Congress, to attack Congress, to overthrow Congress, to incite a riot and perhaps not allow the Electoral College to do their job. Yet he voted in favor of Trump on some constitutional ground, which was kind of BS. He was kind of, playing both sides like a politician. Well, now, when you go against Donald Trump, Yo-Yo and Vanessa, and this goes against anything. If you're going to go against somebody who's a tough guy, you don't go half, you go all in, right, Yo-Yo?
You have to go all in.
You go all
Absolutely.
in, because if you're going to go half, you're going to get pummeled.
Absolutely.
All right, and this
money and power.
and
The
this,
guy has money and power.
And this is in any
Have
fight.
to be confident.
This is in any fight. So if you're going to go up against him, you're either going to go up against him, but you can't go up against him half-hearted, which is what Mitch McConnell did. So he voted in favor of Trump and then blasted him on the Senate floor and said what he did was unconscionable. And even said, Mitch McConnell, perhaps Donald Trump should be indicted in a criminal capacity, yet didn't vote to impeach him. Well, today, Donald Trump issued a blistering attack on Senate leader Mitch McConnell, calling him an unsmiling political hack who should be thrown out of office. In an emailed 626-word statement that all but declared political war, Trump said the Republican Party can never again be respected or strong with political leaders like Senator Mitch McConnell. McConnell's dedication to business as usual, status quo policies, together with his lack of political insight, wisdom, skill, and personality, has rapidly driven him from majority leader to minority leader, and it's only going to get worse. The Republican Party is now in the midst of a civil war. I wouldn't be surprised if in the end the Republican party splits into two parties, with one center-right party, and then which will be a new party, and a Republican Party that is far-right, fascist, authoritarian party, which is represented by Donald Trump. I wouldn't be surprised if we end up with three political parties very soon.
Wow. So the center party, are those like the Republicans that are kind of like, voting against him?
Yeah.
Like the ones that are,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you think that's going to start a whole nother party?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I've heard a lot of people talking about it.
Can they do that?
They can do whatever they want, but what would ultimately happen is that they would split the Republican vote. So they would have three candidates. And that would put the Democrats in power. Because half the Republicans would be voting for one candidate, half the Republicans would be voting for another candidate, and then the Democrats. And the Democrats would get the majority. It would be excellent for the Democrats, and the idea would be that the only way to get Trump out of power is to limit his ability to put his candidates into office. So they're going to basically commit suicide for themselves to kill, so to speak, the real problem in the party. So it's gonna be very interesting what happens. I would not be surprised. I just saw on CNN the other day people were talking about it. I've read articles about it, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens.
I would like to see it happen.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump is being sued. This is very interesting because I didn't even know this law existed, Yo-Yo and Vanessa. The Democratic chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee accused Donald Trump in a federal lawsuit today of inciting the deadly insurrection at the Capitol and conspiring with his lawyer and extremist groups to try to prevent Congress from certifying the results of the election. The suit, filed by committee chairman Representative Bennie Thompson, also names as defendants Donald Trump, his now former personal lawyer Rudy Giuliani, who got fired, and groups including the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, who are basically fascist white supremacist groups. The lawsuit is part of an expected wave of litigation over the January 6th riot and is believed to be the first filed by a member of Congress. A Trump advisor, Jason Miller, said in a statement today that Donald Trump did not organize the rally that preceded the riot and did not incite or conspire to incite any violence in the Capitol on January 6th, all of which, by the way, is not true. Now, the suit, this is what I find interesting. The lawsuit is filed in federal court in Washington under a Reconstruction era law. You know when Reconstruction was after the Civil War. That is the period after the Civil War. The suit filed in federal court was under a Reconstruction era law known as the Ku Klux Klan Act. No one has ever heard of the Ku Klux Klan Act in the last 150 years. And the reason why is because it really never needed to come. Whoever thought that Congress would be attacked? It was put into place to prevent Congress from being attacked. Now, This law, I found it very interesting. It hasn't been used since the 1800s. I never heard of it.
Wow.
I've been a lawyer for 25 years. I went to law school. No one ever said the Ku Klux Klan Act to me ever. I would never know it existed. Now, the suit traces the drawn-out effort by Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani to cast doubt on the election results, even though courts across the country and state election officials repeatedly rejected their baseless allegation of fraud. And despite evidence to the contrary, the suit says the men portrayed the election as stolen while Trump endorsed rather than discouraged threats of violence. The suit says the carefully orchestrated series of events that unfolded at the Save America rally and the storming of the Capitol was no accident or coincidence. It was intended and foreseeable culmination of a carefully coordinated campaign to interfere with the legal process required to confirm the Electoral College. Yesterday is open enrollment in Obamacare. So Obamacare still exists. They are going. It is around. Even if you have a pre-existing condition, you can enroll in Obamacare. The health exchanges are open. Open enrollment started yesterday. And let's just talk about coronavirus quickly, and we're going to get to our meat and potatoes, guys. Mm-hmm. Now, we're gonna because it's a pop-up, Vanessa. We're gonna do all our tea next week. Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah, because we're getting late, and we got to get into our immigration because the guy from I don't want to get libel. I'm making it up. The guy from Starbucks did not come and ruin our volume, but I feel that he could have. Although I'm making a joke about it. Now, according to statistics, I don't want Starbucks. I'll get a call from Starbucks. Why are you saying we did this to you, Bradshaw? No. All right. Now, according to statistics from Johns Hopkins University, there are now over 109 million coronavirus cases worldwide. In the United States, over 27 million people have been diagnosed with COVID. Now, according to New York Times, who are the three highest vaccination rates in the world? What countries would you say has the three highest or the four highest vaccination rates in the world? Meaning that has vaccinated the most percentage of their population. Because this is a key thing now. And the reason why this is important, it's not so much, yes, you want to vaccinate as many people as you can. It's not the number of people vaccinated now. It is the percentage of people in the population being vaccinated or who have antibodies to the coronavirus, because each country now is in a race to get to herd immunity. Herd immunity means it's over. It's done.
Right.
There's no more coronavirus. And now there's an additional race because the coronavirus is mutating. And if countries don't get to herd immunity by a certain date, and I don't know what that date is, I'm not Dr. Fauci, but maybe he knows, then all of these vaccines and antibodies are going to go to down the drain for the most part, because they're not gonna make you immune to the strains that have mutated. But if we can get to herd immunity, then the virus gets killed off, and we don't have to worry about mutating strains. Although I'm sure coronavirus will always be around. I don't think it's going to disappear forever. But right now, it is a race to get to herd immunity. So herd immunity, 70%. Who is leading the world racing to herd immunity, if you had to take a guess? I mean, there's a lot of countries in the world. Would you know?
The two I would guess, one for sure, Israel.
Israel,
we've been
correct.
Talking about
right,
that.
Right. We've been talking about that.
Yep. I was going to say them too.
Israel. All right.
Right. And I would guess UK.
You're close. Yes. UK is now fourth.
France.
Believe it or not.
Huh.
Would you
What
believe
about France?
No,
They've
France.
been pretty.
No. It's UAE, which is Dubai, Abu Dhabi.
Oh, okay.
Israel, Seychelles in Africa, the little island off of Africa. They vaccinated.
Right.
Yeah, they vaccinated a lot of their population, and now the UK is fourth, which is really good. Because the UK has that mutated strain. So if they can reach the herd immunity, they may kill off that mutated strain. Thanks for watching. For more Brad Show Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.